Welcome to the Scale Up Valley podcast, where we bring the best founders and investors to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today's guest is Craig, the CEO of Holibob. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. For the ones who didn't have yet the honor to get to know you, let us know a bit more about your background and how it all started, and how did you end up starting Holibob?
Yeah, good question. I guess so. For a bit of background, we started Holibob straight out of university. So, or we started kind of a company straight out of university, and then went on to start Holibob. So our kind of journey since leaving Glasgow Uni has been kind of in the startup entrepreneurship space. So there's not an awful lot of history before kind of being in entrepreneurship to speak of, but I guess kind of background, went to Glasgow University in Scotland, which is a lot of fun. Then kind of went on and started a skiing business called Whiteout Ski, which was great fun, kind of targeting 18 to 30-year-olds who are looking to go on kind of great, hopefully good fun skiing holidays. And then we moved into a business called 100 Hour Holidays, and then onto Holibob. So that's kind of the I guess the snapshot. There's sadly not much more history other than that.
Sounds great. So and you had this first entrepreneurial experience with this Whiteout Ski, or the ski adventures, from 2018 to 2020. And you start Holibob in 2019. So the first one also influenced why you decided to move forward with Holibob, right? In a certain way.
Yeah, for sure. So Holibob's in the kind of travel or experiences space, and so was Whiteout Ski. So we started Whiteout after Angus and I. So Angus is my co-founder. We basically went on the university ski trip every year. And we used to go to the south of France, to the Alps, to go skiing, and every year we had to get a 30-hour coach journey, so on a bus from Glasgow to the south of France, which when you're 18 is a lot of fun, but it kind of takes its toll after a few years. So in our fourth year at university, we decided to organize a ski trip for 42 of our friends, where we flew everyone to Geneva, and we went skiing, and we stayed in a chalet hotel rather than in a set of apartments. So it was kind of trying to be a slightly more upmarket skiing experience compared to the university ski trip. And on the back of that, running that ski trip with our friends, we basically had a lot of people coming and asking us, can you help us organize our ski trips? So we kind of did that the summer after we left university. Ended up selling, a couple £100,000 worth of ski trips just to friends of friends.
Super nice.
And that was our kind of start in the travel industry. So it was a very steep learning curve in terms of trying to figure out what was what and trying to organize these ski trips. But that kind of got us started in the travel space, and then we kind of went on to move into Holibob, which is much more of a travel tech play.
Right. And tell us, what does Holibob in more detail within the travel tech sector?
Yeah, for sure. So we call Holibob an e-commerce engine for experiences. We're basically trying to build technology which connects people or consumers to incredible things to do. For people that don't know, when I talk about experiences, I mean wine tastings, walking tours, bike tours, Eiffel Tower tickets. So it's anything that fits into like a day or a half day that you would do. You could do it at home, but like we mainly target kind of people when they're on holiday or when they're traveling. And in this sector, about 80% of bookings are done offline. So if you compare that to, say, flights or hotels, where 80% of bookings are done online, the experiences market market is kind of way behind in terms of the digitization of booking. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to help consumers to find incredible things to do and book those things to do. But rather than kind of, people might have heard of Get Your Guide or Viator or those kind of big consumer facing brands, Holibob's a B2B business. So we sit behind other consumer facing travel businesses or destinations or experience operators, and we help them to enable their consumers to find incredible things to do. And it's really premised about, using data and kind of understanding who the consumer is, and then thinking and using kind of the data models that we've built to put the right product in front of the right customer at the right time. And really focusing on how do we create convenience for the consumer when they're on holiday and they're thinking about how can they best spend that time when they're on holiday, and what kind of incredible things do they want to do when they're in that destination.
Right, makes a lot of sense. And how the business model works, Craig, there. So you were saying that you sell to travel agents or B2C portals who have experiences, and you help them optimize the way they reach out to their customers, right?
Yeah, so we have a kind of hybrid subscription with transactional model. Obviously, the exciting thing about travel is just the scale of the market. Travel accounts for around 10% of global GDP. So, it's a massive market that kind of is obviously naturally or global in its nature, obviously. But what we kind of do is we have like a subscription which says, you get access to the technology, but those are relatively low. But what we kind of say is that we take a transaction fee so that, your success is our success. So the more transactions that we can drive for you and therefore your consumers, we all tap into that success through those kind of commissions or transaction fees.
And this is kind of the transaction fees is fixed, or it is variable according to the customer or to the quantity of customers or experiences that you sell, right?
All of the above. I think we basically have a kind of a baseline commission or transaction fee that we take, and it's generally a percentage of the total transaction value. But that can be, there's things like override commissions and various different kind of mechanisms that we use in negotiations to make the deals that much more attractive to our partners.
It's almost a tailor-made package, not something that you have on the website static and it's always the same, right?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Sounds great. And tell us a bit more about the journey. So according to your LinkedIn, you started in May of 2019. We are recording this on 24th of May, but this will just be released in June. So it is 4 years. Congratulations.
Survived.
And last round that you raised was 12 million Series A, if I'm not wrong. Walk us through the different stages of the company in the last 4 weeks, a bit on the journey, also kind of combining it with the fundraising milestones.
Yeah. So the business was in theory incorporated in May. It's actually the 31st of May. So I think LinkedIn is slightly off, but it is so it's coming up for, as you said, for our fourth birthday. But we didn't really start building any technology until kind of October of 2019. Angus and I are both not technical, so it was kind of, we were just trying to figure out out what we were going to do. And at that point we were kind of focusing on a business called 100-Hour Holidays, which was it was a B2C business looking at how do you create packages of flights and hotels and experiences that fit into 100 hours. So it was quite a good concept, and I still think someone needs to come along and make 100-Hour Holidays. So if there's anyone out there that's listening to this is looking for a new business idea, I think 100-Hour Holidays is a great one. How can you fit incredible experiences into 100 hours? But we basically kind of realized that the B2C space in travel is really difficult and really competitive, because you're ultimately buying consumers from Google or via paid search, which the acquisition cost of those consumers is relatively high. We had very little money, and kind of we then started looking at how could we move into a more sustainable model, or how could we find consumers who with different brands, and basically that's where what Holibob kind of lent into. And we started looking at how could we work with other consumer facing travel businesses like Secret Escapes or EasyJet Holidays or any of those brands, to kind of work with them to enable their consumers to, at that time, to find 100-hour holidays. So bringing those like kind of 100-hour holidays that we curated. But what we very quickly realized that actually, these consumer facing businesses had a much bigger problem in the single half-day experiences space. They say there's roughly 1.5 million operators of experiences around the world. So it's a really fragmented space, and it's very difficult to kind of get access to all of that inventory. And a lot of the businesses we spoke to were asking us, can you help us get access to this content? So we kind of pivoted from 100-hour holidays, which was in that that multi-day 3 or 4 day space, into Holibob, which was B2B and single half days. So that was kind of quite a big transformational change or shift. So we started building technology in October 2019. We went live with our first customer, who was Secret Escapes, in February of 2020, which, if your memory serves you correct.
I'm smiling now because you are alive and you have
exactly.
So congratulations for that. But yes, what an unfortunate moment to start the company in travel tech.
Not great. So I think we sold about 20 things or 20 bookings in the first 2 weeks, all of which were cancelled, and then lockdown hit, and we basically didn't sell anything or any real experiences for the first 2 years almost of the business. So but I think kind of what we were able to do is that through that period, we were able to really think about the business, really think about the market, really think about the problem that we're trying to solve, and also speak to a lot of people. The thing was that in travel, quite a lot of people had time, a lot of executives and a lot of, they had a chance to kind of think about their business and think about what the direction of their business was going to be. And us being in the B2B space, it gave us that opportunity to kind of validate the opportunity and really think about how we wanted to solve that problem. So the pandemic, in some ways, I think we're going to look back on it as quite a defining moment of Holibob's journey. But no doubt it was kind of fairly stressful at the time. And kind of through the pandemic, we managed to raise just shy of a million pounds from kind of family and friends and kind of a single family office. And that was kind of in
2020 or 2021?
So late 2020, we raised an original really early seed or pre-seed round. Then later in, I think, early 2021, we managed to raise another sort of 800,000 on top of that, which gave us kind of the runway to build the business, to actually kind of get some additional people into the business and kind of move on from there. So kind of we got to the end of the pandemic, or towards the end of the pandemic, and we picked up some new clients, and then we were able to raise an additional 2.5 million pound round. And then kind of we then began to see the business scale through 2022. So we did about 7x growth last year, and we're on to do about 6 or 7x growth again this year. Growth from a low base is kind of, it's easy to get multiples of growth when you're starting from a low base, but it kind of is exactly, it's still good.
Especially in the second year, right? So in the second year, even if it was a small baseline, the second year it's to 6-7x, it becomes a little bit more difficult than the first year, right? So we're doing it for the second.
We're on track to do that this year, which is good, and we've kind of seen a good start to the year anyway. Although scarily, we're now almost halfway through the year, which is crazy. But yeah, and then kind of in June, July of last year, we raised our Series A, which was $12 million.
Yeah, super well done. And so you said in the beginning it was all about finding your space, right? The typical product market fit search mode. And when did you felt that you found product market fit, and now it's all about scaling up, or did you already feel that you have a strong product market fit today, or you still need to do some more experimentations before being ready to scale?
I mean, if I'm honest, I think we still have, we're leaving a lot of opportunity, on the table. Like I think we've not got the product to a place that we're happy with it, and we're actually, solving the true problem of how to get the right experience in front of the right customer at the right time. And I think there's a lot of kind of iteration and innovation that needs to go on in order to enable us to do that. Doing it from one British customer who's flying to Barcelona is one thing, but doing for a Chinese traveler who's going to New York, or a Mexican traveler who's going to Los Angeles, is a very difficult problem to try and solve. So, I think we've got product market fit in this. I'd say we've got commercial market fit in that, people really like what we're offering. And I think we've been able to demonstrate in the different kind of verticals that we work in terms of with destinations, with operators of experiences, and with online travel providers or OTAs, that the product there's definitely demand from the product. And I think we've been able to generate or demonstrate kind of very positive early signs, and we've been able to scale very, very quickly on the back of that. But I think ultimately, for me, there's a huge amount, for years worth of kind of iteration. And I'm sure that's the same for everyone in terms of, you're never done, and you always want to do more. But I think there's still elements where you look at it and you go, okay, we've not really nailed the product to the extent that we want to. But I think we've got, I'd say, able to sell it into businesses, or into the businesses that we're trying to work with. But I think there's a lot more iteration that needs to happen.
Sounds great, and thanks for being humble. There, it's easy to come on this show and say, we have all figured out, and we are just scaling like crazy, and and we know how we'll get to 5, 10, and 100 million in the next 5 years.
I think one of the interesting things about, we started Holibob when we were like 23 or no 24. Like you don't know anything. You know nothing. You literally know nothing about, how to run a business, how to scale, how to raise money. And I think the thing is, coming into it knowing nothing is actually quite a good position to be in, because actually then you come into it with no like preconceptions. You're just hungry to learn, and you're a sponge for knowledge. And I think that still today we try to be sponges for knowledge, and try to learn and listen to as many people as you can, and try then, you can't listen to everyone all the time, but I think trying to listen intently, you've got 2 ears and one mouth kind of thing, is quite a good turn of phrase.
You were talking about different countries, Craig. Did you have any kind of focus around the UK and Europe or the US? So are you going global from day one? So how has been your thoughts on your international expansion strategy?
So I think there's two sides to that. I think there's the the companies that we work with, and then there's like our company and kind of like how we're building the internal teams, because travel in its nature is global. Like our first partner, Secret Escapes, sends customers to every corner of the world, from Mexico to Lanzarote to Africa. So you then automatically, in order to serve the needs of their consumers, you need to start building out a global supply chain or a global supply base, so that you can then serve the needs of those consumers. So the business is inherently kind of global, and we always built the platform out with the vision of it being the go-to experience e-commerce engine for experiences globally. It wasn't designed to be the e-commerce engine for experiences in the UK or in Europe. It was designed to serve the needs of kind of global businesses and the travel industry more generally. In terms of our expansion, we started in the UK. Like we obviously kind of Angus and I are based in London, and we built the team out kind of in the UK. We were always remote first, so like our CTO is based in Edinburgh, for example. Our chief architects in Brighton, which is on the south coast. Angus and I were in London, so we were never kind of limited to one spot as a business, and I think that's kind of become part of the DNA of Holibob. And then April last year, we acquired another business called Tourism Solved, and their team was mainly based in the US. So, we've now got people on the West Coast of the US, we've got people in Chicago, we've got people in London, we've got people across Europe, and we've actually now got a couple of our employees in New Zealand. So it's like truly across time zones, but travel's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week industry. So it's part of the DNA of the business, but it's part of, it comes with its challenges, but it's what we kind of need to do.
Yeah. And in the beginning, you were saying, Craig, that your co-founder is not a technical co-founder. So what is the background of what is the role in the company of your co-founder?
Yeah, so he's the numbers guy. He's the CFO. So he interestingly, in travel, like you think about, we sell into the US and we take in US dollars, and then we pay out to our suppliers in like any currency around the world. And in some instances, you can be paying out to kind of in euros or Singaporean dollars, depending on where the supplier is. And I think so basically that arbitrage or that treasury function is super complicated. So having Angus there as a CFO figure has been very, very valuable for us.
And how has been the experience with the fact, and of course I need to tap here for other founding teams, starting the company without having a CTO, a technical co-founder in the team. So when did you hire the CTO, or did you have any kind of freelance? How were you able to develop the product in the first years of the company before having the opportunity to bring the CTO full time?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope our CTO doesn't listen to this. I mean, we Graham, who's our CTO, and still our CTO today, we met him, or Angus met him at a networking event in Edinburgh, like literally grabbing pizza from the pizza stand, and kind of got chatting to him at that point about 100-hour holidays. And we were basically about to spend, I think it was like £10,000 on a project with an outsourced kind of dev house to come up with this MVP. Okay. And Graham basically said, that's a terrible idea. You're not going to get what you want. Like, I'll try and help you, like, at least like define the requirements of what you need from this kind of dev shop. And we basically kept going back to Graham, like asking for more advice. And over kind of the period of 6 months, we wore him down, and he said, "Okay, right, forget it. I'll build the first version of it with a friend, with a friend of his."
And well done.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to thank Graham for a lot, I think. But yeah, we got him to build like the MVP, and then we need this, or if we're going to fundraise, we need that, or we can, you know how it goes. And it was, very resourceful, kind of, beg, borrow, and steal as much as you can to kind of get from 0 to 0.1, I guess. And then we managed to raise some cash and kind of very little cash, but we managed to bring him in, and kind of convinced him that this idea was worth investing his time, which is obviously the most valuable asset of all. And then we managed to kind of move through the funding rounds, and then bring him on kind of completely and pay him properly and everything else. Right. So we were very fortunate. I think it's very difficult when you don't have a technical co-founder, because you don't know what you don't know. Like, it's very easy for people to pull the wool over your eyes. And now looking back, having been in this for 4 years, I can talk about tech. You can kind of understand what people are talking about when they're talking in tech speak. And yeah, you can tell them to dumb it down as much as or the engineers to dumb it down as much as they can for you. You still need to understand like the basics. And back then we didn't understand the basics at all. So it's super I think it is really difficult if you don't have a technical co-founder to figure your way through it, especially if you've had no exposure to tech before. So it's not easy.
But you kind of had him as a early key employee and kind of a extended founding team, right? So which was a great solution to have. So you talked that nowadays you guys started remotely from day one in the UK. Then with the acquisition in the US, you also have people in the US, recently in New Zealand. And it makes all sense because that's a global company with a global operation. So you need to be able to manage the 24/7, 365 days per year. So what has been your lessons learned working as a remote first company in terms of hiring, communication, problem solving, culture? So some of your lessons and your experience so far. I'm sure that you are still figuring out how to make it better and better, but the same happens with the ones who are in person and in the office, right? So they are not all figured out for any team.
No. There's a lot in it. I mean, I like to think that we have a very good culture at Holibob, kind of based around authenticity, best in class, and camaraderie, and we try to keep it super simple around those values, and we try to make it simple so that people could live those values. And I think we talk about them a lot as like core to why the business is the way it is. And we want to create an environment where people enjoy turning up to work every day with a smile on their face, because I think that there's so much more, people are so much more productive when they enjoy the environment that they're in. And I think that kind of is the same in an office as it is kind of if you're remote, but you've got to then, I think, put a lot more effort into making that happen when it's remote, because it's very easy for people to become isolated, for people to, get lost, be forgotten about in a remote environment because you don't see them every day. So it's the small things. It's like, it's if someone seems down on a call, like encouraging people to give them a call and ask, oh, how are you? Like if you got out of a meeting in an office, you would have the general chit chat of, how are the kids, et cetera, but you don't do that like when you're remote, because you don't, it becomes very transactional. So trying to encourage people to, behave in a empathetic, kind of cautious, kind way when we're remote, as you would when you're in an office, I think it's massive. And then really leaning into culture. So like camaraderie is a massive part of like what we try to, of the environment that we try to create. Is, it's not just a collection of colleagues, it's like a community of people. So, we have like-minded, or we're interested in each other and we want to ask questions. So we do, coffee chats twice a week. So, they're kind of every second week, rotating between morning and afternoon, so that the UK can mix with the US and the US can mix with the UK. So you become inclusive of everyone. But those coffee chats, the only rule is that you can't talk about work, and it's half an hour where the entire business stops. They join the call. You split people out into breakout rooms of 3, and then they just, you just chat about anything other than work. So you've got like, engineers chatting to me, or chatting to like, a supply account manager, or, the head of sales talking to whoever. It's just like that intermingling. So, things like that are kind of quite valuable, I think, because it just creates it just demonstrates you want to create that environment. And I think it gives people a place to chat. And we've got things like now in the company, we've got a walking competition going on, and it seems really like cringeworthy to say. It's like, oh, what, like does anyone really want to do that? But it's about, we've broken people into like 10 teams of six, I think they are, and everyone's like trying to do more than 7,500 steps a day, and there's this like sense of competition going on internally. But you do those kind of things, those things in an office as well, but it's like, why would you not try and do them in a remote environment? So I think there's stuff around camaraderie and trying to, you have to be proactive with how to create that kind of environment. And then the final thing, and I think is so important with being remote, is just communication, and like over communicating is key, because it's very easy for people to get like Zoom fatigue or video chat fatigue, where you switch off and you don't listen. People are listening. It's not their fault. It's like, it's very difficult when you're not face to face to really understand like the emotions or the reactions of people as you would in a room. So I think trying to over communicate and be proactive with communication is really key. And one thing that we've found, and we're really like trying to kind of get right now, is around async and trying to get people to write more and document more and share kind of offline as much as they are just like sitting on calls. Because on calls, once that conversation's happened, it's it's in the past, it's history, and if there's no documentation of like the decisions or of like the discussion that was happened, then it's just lost. So I think what we're really trying to do, and is comes with being remote across loads of time zones, is you've got to get really disciplined around written communications and communicating effectively in writing, so that the team things in communication doesn't just get lost into history.
Right. And in terms of the size of the team, how many are you at this time, Craig?
So we're about 70 people now.
70. Got it. So it's already the moment that you start breaking a bit, and you start needing almost kind of a second layer of management, maybe closer to an Android, but you are in the equilibrium before starting to break in terms of organizational structure and communication point of view. And how often do you have the coffee groups of free?
So every week. So we do
every week. Cool.
So every Thursday I think it's rotating. So it's one morning and then one afternoon. So it's like week on, week off, because we've got the New Zealand side of things as well that need to kind of fit into that.
Makes a lot of sense. And I like your point that remote first helps you to have a discipline early on that helps you to scale. So and also sometimes, especially when you open a new office because you are expanding to a new market, then it becomes a little bit kind of the headquarters and the second office, and people are not all at the same level. In this case, remotely, everyone is at the same level, right? So especially, I think that what makes the remote or the hybrid model so difficult is that you have people that are kind of in the headquarters in the office and people that are outside the office and remote, and then they don't have the same power in the decision process.
Yeah, well, I've never been in that environment, so I find it difficult to kind of say that hybrid. But I think you can understand how it's difficult if you've got some people going for drinks on a Thursday evening, and then you've got others who are remote so can't get involved. You then end up with a kind of a mix and match between the two. And I think that becomes difficult because people don't feel like they're being included or they're involved, and communications don't just happen one way or another. So I imagine that hybrid environment is super difficult. But what we've had to do is kind of try and from day one make the remote environment part of everything, and that is communications, that's documentation, that's like the tools you use, etc., so that it becomes very natural to the company. I would add that we've not got this figured out. We're still trying lots of different things, and we still think that we're not doing a very good job in terms of communicating strategy effectively and getting everyone to understand kind of what the strategy is and what direction the company should be going, and how today what the team are doing today affects tomorrow. So like there's lots of things that we're working on and we're trying to get right because we think we're not doing a particularly good job on them. But I think being remote encourages you to be proactive, and you can't be lazy with that stuff, because the impact is massive if you kind of don't get it right.
You just nailed one of my passions, how to communicate strategy, and nowadays how to communicate strategy in a remote first environment, and having everyone on the same page and feeling part of the vision of the company. That's something that I love. But in terms of hiring, we know this is a very important muscle for any company that is scaling, and we know how important it is to hire right the first 10 employees and the first 100. Other people would even add that. So any lessons learned in that chapter, especially making it in a remote first environment? Do you have any policy around meeting in person once before hiring new talent, or you really take the shot in totally remotely?
No, so we take the decisions totally remotely. I think for me, it's leaning into like who the people are, rather than like what their qualifications are.
Right.
I basically have a cadence where I speak to like 2 or 3 members of the team for half an hour, like 2 or 3 members of the team every week for half an hour. So like, I just have a rolling, cadence of chatting to different people in the team. And I was having a conversation with one of our members of production yesterday, and she said, I was like, how have you, she's been here for 5 months. And she said, people are all really kind, and they're all, really welcoming, and really like want to help you to succeed. And I think that comes down to like the type of people that you look to hire, and we call everyone internally Holibobbers. And I think that it's kind of it's almost it's kind of a way of being, and trying to find that in people, I think, is really important around, do they have the right work ethic, and do they have the right kind of approach to life, almost, as opposed to getting, really binary around what they've done previously, or any of what their scores might be on some tests. So because I think that like culture is so valuable, and like if you get the right people, then they can be so powerful, even if they don't have the experience, because they're hungry to learn. They want to make an impact. So I think kind of always what I try to do when I was hiring, and I try and stay relatively involved in the hiring process, although you can't be like on top. I've heard other people and other founders say that they interview every single person that joins the company. I kind of don't do that, and have decided not to do that, and kind of trust the team slightly more to make those, or like my team to kind of make those decisions. But I think what I always encourage is like, are they the right type of person to fit in here and have a net positive impact on the business, as opposed to just kind of being another employee. So it's not very good advice, I think, and I think it's kind of that's very intangible, but I think it is really important, especially in a remote environment, is getting the right type of people.
Absolutely. And in terms of your leadership team, Craig, how is it structured in terms of, do you have your co-founder CFO? Do you have a commercial person, product? You have the CTO. You already talked about him and how important it was in the beginning of the company. So how are you structured in terms of your leadership team?
Yes, we've got we've kind of strangely got a senior management team, which is like the highest level. And then we've got a senior leadership team, although we were thinking about changing that, because the thought was that's the wrong way around. So on our management team, we've got myself, CFO, CTO, our COO, heading operations. Under our COO, we've got commercial, and we've got supply, and we've got production.
Interesting.
And then and mainly because she's hugely experienced in terms of the industry and has been around. She's been working in tourism experiences for like 15 years, so has a huge amount of experience in terms of understanding the way the market works. And then we've got our chief brand and strategy officer, who's part of our senior management team. And Michael Michael was kind of ex CMO at StubHub, so he's kind of got a huge amount of experience in terms of like scaling businesses. So he's kind of a very good voice in terms of plotting, you know, where to take the business, what the kind of brand positioning needs to be, but also kind of how does the strategy of where we want to go kind of fit in, and how is it communicated? And I think that's been hugely valuable. And then underneath that, we've got a kind of senior leadership team, which is another 5 people on top of that. So that brings in kind of, you know, the heads of supply, the head of commercial, VP, sorry, should I say VP of supply, VP of commercial, VP of people. Like that is a broader kind of leadership group.
Right. So you have kind of the C level and then the VP level, the senior management team and the senior leadership team. That usually it's kind of the opposite, as you said. But but so we got to understand your model. Yes. So.
But I think it's quite interesting. And one of the things if you look at Holibob, I think compared to our peers, is we're quite top heavy in terms of experience in the our SMT, senior management team, and senior leadership team. And I don't really know why it is, but it's been a massively defining kind of factor of Holibob, is having that kind of experience in the industry.
Super important.
You know, I was reading like a bunch of materials that we probably hired more senior people than we should have at every stage. Like and that was partly through the acquisition of Tourism Solve, where we brought in a number of people, and that brought in that seniority. But it's been hugely kind of beneficial for us as we went from sort of 25 to 60, 70 people. And now we have a very good foundation for kind of continuing to scale from here, rather than having to bring in that another kind of management layer. We've got kind of those layers fairly well established at this point. So, and I think it's important, again, in remote environments where people, I think it's very difficult with like true juniors and their kind of first jobs to bring people into small startups. You need to like be a self-starter. You need to be able to get your teeth into things and move things forward. You can't have someone looking over your shoulder all the time to kind of support. So I think bringing in that kind of senior group early and remote is really important as well, because it means that you've got more of the infrastructure to then bring in more junior team members. I would say that we're still not at the stage where we're bringing in like, you know, 10s or 20s or 30s of kind of the more junior team members, but we're kind of moving towards that. And because we have that leadership group in place, I think it's going to be, hopefully it's a slightly smoother transition.
Right. That's a wise point that you just made, and it also helps to be ready to scale with the right leadership team in place. That helps a lot, especially in a remote first environment, where when things are not going according to the plan, it's much more difficult to communicate in a certain way, because people are not in the room, they are not able to see each other. So when there are fear in the air, people are not able to see each other, right? So in that sense, having more senior people that create more confidence and more trust for the team helps a lot to go through those ups and downs that happen in any startup and scale up several times in different stages.
Yeah, so couldn't agree more. Although, you know, you've got to say that we've been very lucky to be able to hire those people and be able to. Lots of founders don't have the capital, or you know, you don't have the ability to hire those more senior people. But I think I think that always comes back to, I think there's a massive part of like vision, and people want to buy into like the why that they join companies, and senior. I think senior people. You know, it's not just senior people, it's everyone that joins a company like wants to understand like where is the company going and why should I be involved. And I think you can do like a lot of funky things around salaries and tiering and options and all the rest of it. Like kind of use your imagination in some ways, and you know, if you kind of find someone that you want to hire, like tell them why you want to hire them. sell them the dream. That should, like, I think that's kind of your job as a founder, is to kind of keep selling the dream. I mean, you don't want to say fake it
Be
until you make it. Like,
resourceful.
it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not that
As we discussed at
fake
the
it until you
beginning.
make it. But there is a bit like, yeah, keep aim big, dream big, and
Absolutely.
give it a shot. The worst that they can say is no. Like, and that that's the
And at
worst.
least
That's the
they
worst
they
that's gonna
share
happen.
some interesting insights with you anyway, even if they don't join, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
and they
Free
stay
free
as craving
consultancy.
fans. Exactly.
Yeah, free consultancy. Get as much for free as you possibly can at every stage. That's a good bit of advice.
So time is flying. Before getting to the last segment of the show, Craig, I just wanted to pick your brain on your first acquisition in the US, because usually we are seeing more and more companies going through M&A a little bit earlier than in the past. So I would say acquisitions will only come in the past post Series C, in some cases post Series B. So did you do the first acquisition after Series A or before Series A?
Kind of in tandem. It was at the same at the same time. I mean, we kind of needed the capital,
but you needed the capital
to,
from Series A, so it was almost post
yeah,
Series A. Okay, so okay,
yeah,
got it.
exactly.
So how did you, any advice for other founders that are at similar stages around doing an acquisition, M&A? What did you consider? It was something that you always had in mind, or it was an opportunity that popped up and you reacted to that opportunity and found it was a good deal to help the company to grow? So any insights there for other founders that are going through the same thought process?
Yeah, I think at this stage, the people are like so important. I mean, you know, it's ultimately, I mean, maybe in very few cases you're buying some technology, but I think those, to start combining tech stacks this early on is a recipe for disaster. Like,
Right.
tech resource is so expensive and so valuable, to be distracting them to do some kind of like merging of tech stacks or anything like that. So realistically, you're hiring the people. And they're going to become a huge part of your company, because ultimately, Tourism Sol's management team have become the management team of Holibob. Like, they are, two of them are my direct reports, and then two of Graham and Angus, who were my CTO and CFO, were there before, but Robin and Michael, your COO and the chief brand and strategy, like, they were from Tourism Sol. So it's all about the people, and kind of, so my advice would be, have a few drinks with them, if not a lot of drinks with them, like to try and figure out as much about their personalities, and if you guys if like the groups gel and get on, it's not probably the most technical piece of advice of all time around M&A, but do whatever you need to do to get comfortable with them as people, because they're going to become a huge part of your life, and your company. So, and you need to figure out if you're gonna be able to get on for a very long period of time, because Series A is ultimately so early in the a life cycle of a company. If you're at seed, you kind of think Series A is, you've made it. If you're kind of a Series A, you realize that actually it's kind of Series B and Series C, you made it. But I think at every stage you think that the company's still pretty early.
Maybe this is a good question. What was the size of the company in terms of headcount, whatever you can share, and how large were you guys when you acquired the company?
So we were about 14 people or 15 people, and they were like, or maybe slightly more. We were maybe like about 20, and they were like 8 or 9. So it was, it was
quite
us
early,
acquiring.
Really.
Yeah. Really, really early. But I think it's been, again, coming back to things of like, well, I mean,
so it was for the people and also for the fact that they were located in the US as well, or nothing. It was really an opportunity in terms of acquire more than kind of presence in the US.
Yeah, acquihire, and I mean the opportunity popped up. We didn't go searching for it. I would say, like, we were going to work together as companies, like, hopefully we were partnering anyway, and then the conversations. The conversations that we had, like, it transpired that kind of the way that we saw the industry and the way that we saw the way the industry was going to go were very aligned in those conversations that we had, and it was super high level. And I think that's another thing to highlight, is that your visions have got to be aligned around how you see the world and where you see the company going. And because you can't bring in a group of 8 people into a group of 20 and go like, right, no, your ideas are terrible, we're just going to do our, like, this, it's never gonna work. So I think it has got to be like, you don't want to say like a match made in heaven, but you've got to kind of have that alignment. And I'd spend a bit of time talking about that alignment. So, we locked ourselves in a room in New York for 3 days, like both management teams. And we just talked about kind of what we saw kind of happening and tried to write down and whiteboard and ideate around where the company would go, and share a bit about what we were doing with Holibob and what they were doing with Tourism Solved, and to try and figure out if it made sense. So, I think that's kind of the 2 key bits of advice: to get the people and really talk about the vision, because they're the things that are tangible at that point. There's very little, there's no data you can really dive into to understand the kind of inner workings of their company. It's much more about, it's much higher level than that.
And the CEO of that company became one of the members of your leadership team, or
So Robin, who was the CEO of Tourism Solved, is now the CEO of Holibob.
Yeah, so super important to understand when is the right timing to do acquisitions, and also to ensure that the company will be a good fit, and the team will be a good fit with our own company. So time is flying. Let's go to the last segment of the show. Craig, we will not be able to get through all the 6 questions, but let's go through the most important one. So if you would have the opportunity to have a coffee with yourself at the beginning of Holibob, what advice would you offer to your younger Craig?
I think it's kind of cliched, and a lot of people give it, but it's don't be so worried, or don't be so concerned about what others think about you. I think like you get a lot of imposter syndrome as a young founder trying to figure it out. So I think no one's gonna trample on you for trying. So I think just kind of don't worry about what other people think so much.
That is definitely great advice. So when I started Scale Up Valley, I was 24 or 25, and my purpose was to coach CEOs. And at the time, everyone would tell me that I was crazy. So later today, we are 10 years old. So it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a great advice to close the show with. And Craig, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even if it doesn't work, it's a lot
of experience. Exactly.
Exactly.
Craig, thanks so much for making the time. It was really a pleasure to have you on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And to our community, thanks for being there. We keep bringing you the best of the best to make your life easier as you scale up your company. See you soon, and keep scaling.